We all want to make a difference. We want to build a future we're proud of for our families, our communities, and ourselves. But too often we believe that greatness starts with something big, a grand gesture, a monumental shift. The truth? The future isn't built by what we do once in a while. It's built by what we do every single day, especially when no one's watching. Let me tell you a story. There's a young man who wants to get in shape. On day 1, he goes for a run. He eats healthy. On day 2, the same. Day 3, he steps on the scale, nothing's changed. He feels defeated. But if he had kept going, not for 3 days, but for 3 months, everything would change. Why? Not because of the intensity of his actions, but because of their consistency. Small habits. That's the secret. The real change makers don't wait for the perfect moment. They don't wait for motivation to strike like lightning. They commit to small, intentional actions, repeated over time. That's how they shape the future. Not overnight, but every night and every morning. And you want to lead? Start by listening more today. You want to innovate? Start by questioning assumptions today. You want to succeed? Start by showing up on time, every time, today. These aren't just habits, they're investments. Every small action you take today is like a seed. You may not see the results tomorrow, but if you water it with discipline, with purpose, with belief, one day it grows into something bigger than you imagine. We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And the best systems, they're built on habits. So I'll leave you with this. You don't need to change the world today, but you can change your today. Because the people who rule tomorrow are the ones who show up today. Again and again. Small habits, big future, change today, and you'll be ready to rule tomorrow. Thank you. Big change starts small. This idea goes against what we've been conditioned to believe. We often associate transformation with dramatic events, a viral success, a sudden promotion, a breakthrough idea. But if we look closer at the people who build lives of lasting impact, we find a common thread. They started small. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. Not with fireworks, but with a flicker of commitment. The illusion that transformation requires a monumental leap discourages too many from even starting. The truth is, most change that truly matters doesn't begin with a revolution. It begins with a choice. A single, often invisible decision repeated over time. Consider someone who wants to become a great writer. They don't sit down one day and pen a best-selling novel. They start by writing 200 words a day, then 300. Some days the words come easily, other days they struggle, but they keep writing. No one applauds them, no one posts about their progress, and yet, day after day, word after word, they begin to form their voice. That voice, shaped in solitude, eventually becomes the one that moves others, but it all started in silence with a small, steady habit. The same is true in business, relationships, health, any area of life. The massive success we admire from afar is nearly always built on a foundation of small, disciplined actions. Someone who leads a thriving company likely started with a few awkward meetings in a coffee shop, some cold emails, and a lot of quiet hours spent listening, learning, and trying. The leader who can now inspire thousands likely started by practicing how to communicate clearly with just one person. These beginnings don't look impressive on the surface, but they matter more than we think. Small changes are sustainable. They bypass our brain's resistance to change. If you decide to run 10 miles a day from the start, your mind will rebel and your body will break down. But if you commit to 5 minutes of movement daily, it's almost too small to resist. Yet it's through these small, consistent actions that the body adapts, the mind shifts, and the identity starts to change. You begin to see yourself as someone who shows up, someone who follows through. And that's when transformation begins, not because of a massive external event, but because of a subtle internal shift. Another reason small beginnings are powerful is that they teach humility. You're not doing it to impress anyone. You're doing it because you believe in the future you're building. You're not looking for applause. You're building integrity. Each small act becomes a quiet promise to yourself, and when you keep those promises, you build trust, and self-trust is the foundation for every bold move you'll ever make. There's also a compounding effect at play. Small efforts may not look like much in the beginning, but they accumulate, they stack. One conversation leads to another. One saved dollar becomes a habit of financial discipline. One healthy meal becomes a lifestyle. One day of practicing kindness makes it easier to be generous the next. And before long, the gap between where you started and where you are becomes undeniable. Big change starts small, not because small is easier, but because it's real. It's honest. It's where every lasting achievement begins. It's not the loudest part of the journey, but it's the most essential. And for those willing to honor the process, those small steps will lead somewhere extraordinary. Consistency beats intensity. It's a principle that's often overlooked in a world obsessed with immediate results and dramatic transformations. We live in a culture that celebrates intensity, pulling all-nighters, crash diets, sudden bursts of productivity as the ultimate sign of commitment. But the reality is intensity is easy to start and hard to sustain. It burns bright for a moment, then fizzles out. Consistency, on the other hand, might not be flashy, but it builds the kind of strength and progress that lasts. It's not about how hard you can push for a day. It's about how well you can show up every day, even when you don't feel like it. Imagine someone decides to improve their health. They sign up for a gym membership and go all out for 5 days straight, 2-hour workouts, strict meal plans, zero room for error. But by day 6, they're exhausted, sore, and overwhelmed. Motivation fades. Life gets in the way, and eventually they stop. Another person chooses a different route. They commit to 20 minutes of exercise a day. It doesn't feel extreme. In fact, it almost feels too simple, but they keep doing it day after day, week after week. Months pass, and their energy improves, their mindset shifts, their body adapts. And one day they realize they become the kind of person who doesn't miss a workout. Not because of one intense burst, but because of quiet, unshakable consistency. This principle applies to any area of growth. In relationships, you can't fix years of distance or conflict with one big emotional conversation. But a daily effort to be present, to listen, to check in, that builds a connection that can withstand challenges. In work, you don't master a craft by doing it once in a while with great intensity. You master it by doing a little of it every day, especially when progress feels slow or invisible. That's the hard part, sticking with something when the results haven't shown up yet. That's when most people give up. But the ones who keep going, who keep their habits alive through boredom, fatigue, and setbacks, those are the ones who break through. There's a quiet power in showing up consistently. It doesn't demand attention or praise. It doesn't rely on hype. It's rooted in discipline and clarity. You're not chasing excitement. You're building identity. Each time you act in alignment with your goals, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. And over time, those votes accumulate into something far more powerful than a moment of passion. They become a pattern of character. Consistency also trains resilience. Intensity often fails at the first obstacle. It crumbles when things don't go according to plan. But consistency adapts. It weathers the storm. When you're committed to showing up regularly, you learn how to adjust rather than quit. You learn that progress isn't linear. You learn to value the process over the performance. And that mindset, more than anything, becomes your advantage. There's a reason the most successful people in any field aren't the ones who go the hardest once in a while. They're the ones who've built systems to keep showing up when no one's watching. They've understood that excellence isn't built in a single day of effort. It's built in the dull, unglamorous, repetitive act of trying again and again. When others get tired of the routine, they stay in it. When others get bored, they stay curious. When others give up, they go back to the basics. Not because they're superhuman, but because they've learned to respect the rhythm of steady, consistent progress. Intensity will make you feel powerful for a day, but consistency will make you powerful for a lifetime. Daily actions shape the future, not tomorrow, not next year, but what you do today, this very moment, is already laying the foundation for what your life will look like in the years ahead. The small choices you make, what you focus on, how you spend your time, how you speak, how you respond to challenges, these decisions ripple forward in ways you can't always see in the moment. The future is not some distant event that suddenly happens to us. It's something we are constantly building brick by brick through our habits, attitudes, and intentions. It's easy to underestimate the power of the present moment. After all, most daily actions seem insignificant. Checking your phone instead of reading a book, postponing that conversation, skipping one workout, speaking a little harshly out of stress. These moments pass quickly and quietly. They don't feel like they matter, but they do. Because repeated over time, they form your patterns, and your patterns shape your outcomes. What you do repeatedly becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes who you are. Think about anyone who has reached a high level of mastery or influence. It wasn't one lucky break or a single life-altering decision that got them there. It was their repeated focus on the right things day in, day out. A violinist who performs on the world's biggest stages didn't wake up one morning with exceptional skill. They played scales when no one was watching. They practiced when it wasn't convenient. Each hour they invested in their craft shaped the future that was coming. They didn't control the exact timeline, but they did control the preparation. The same principle applies to how we show up in relationships. You don't build trust or love through one grand gesture. You build it in the way you choose to listen every day, in the way you remember the small things, in the way you consistently offer presence and patience. It's not the once-a-year vacation that defines the strength of your relationship. It's how you treat each other on a regular Tuesday. It's those tiny, quiet moments of connection that accumulate over time into something unbreakable. People often think the future is shaped by vision, and while vision is important, it's not enough. Vision without daily discipline is just a fantasy. It's the people who back their dreams with actions, those who do the boring, necessary, repetitive work, that see results. And what's even more powerful is when those daily actions align with who you want to become, because then it's not just about achieving something, it's about transforming into the kind of person who naturally creates that kind of future. This idea can be both intimidating and empowering. It means you can't afford to waste time hoping for a breakthrough while ignoring what's in your control today. But it also means you're not powerless. You're not at the mercy of chance or luck or timing. You're actively creating the life you want through what you choose to do today and again tomorrow. Every habit you form, every conversation you engage in, every small promise you keep to yourself, these are all votes for the future you want to live in. The hard part is that the results often lag behind the effort. You may not see the impact right away, but that's not because it's not working. It's because real change takes time to reveal itself. And by the time it does, your daily actions will have already become your identity. The future doesn't start someday, it starts now, in this moment. And it's shaped not by what you say you want, but by what you actually do, repeatedly, quietly, and intentionally. Habits are investments. Every small, repeated action we take is a deposit into the account of our future. Just like financial investments, the power of habits lies in their ability to compound over time. A single workout won't transform your body. One healthy meal won't reverse years of poor eating. 1 hour of focused learning won't make you an expert. But done consistently, these actions accumulate interest. They grow, they multiply in value. And before long, the effort that once seemed small begins to deliver returns that far exceed the initial investment. This compounding effect is often invisible at first, which is why it's so easily overlooked. It's tempting to think that unless we see immediate results, the habit isn't working, but that's not how growth works. Progress hides in the early stages. You go to the gym for a month, and you don't see much change in the mirror. You write every day for 2 weeks, and your mind still feels clunky. You try meditating, but your mind still wanders. So many people give up at this point. Not because the habit wasn't valuable, but because they didn't give it enough time to pay off. But those who stay the course discover that their small, consistent actions eventually create a tipping point. What was once difficult becomes natural. What once felt pointless becomes powerful. Think of planting a tree. You don't plant a seed today and expect the shade tomorrow. You water it, you protect it, you nurture it in quiet seasons when nothing seems to be happening. And then one day, it breaks the surface, it grows leaves, it provides shelter. The same is true of your habits. They start underground, shaping the root system of your future long before the results become visible to others. That's what makes them an investment, not in who you are today, but in who you are becoming. There's also something deeply empowering about taking responsibility for these daily investments. You can't always control your circumstances, but you can control your inputs. You can choose to read instead of scroll. You can choose to speak kindly instead of criticize. You can choose to take a walk instead of staying sedentary. These are small, quiet decisions, but they're votes for the life you want to live. Over time, these votes add up. They define your character, your reputation, your health, your happiness. And just like financial investments, the earlier you start, the more powerful the impact. But habits don't just shape outcomes, they shape identity. When you repeatedly take action in a certain direction, you begin to see yourself in a new way. You're no longer someone who tries to eat healthy. You're someone who takes care of your body. You're not someone who wants to be more focused. You're someone who honors your time. The habit becomes more than something you do. It becomes a reflection of who you are. And that's when it gets even more powerful, because when your actions align with your identity, motivation becomes secondary. You don't need to force yourself. You just follow through on who you already believe yourself to be. The most successful people understand this. They don't rely on passion alone. They build systems, they create habits that serve them whether they feel inspired or not. And those habits, repeated quietly over months and years, become the engine that drives success. It's not about dramatic effort, it's about disciplined, deliberate practice. That's the nature of investment. It grows not in giant leaps, but in steady, reliable progress. Every small habit is a seed. Every repetition is water. And every day you show up is a step closer to the future you're building. Not all at once, but absolutely, without question, over time. Leaders begin with small behaviors. The image of leadership is often associated with bold speeches, decisive actions, and the ability to rally people behind a vision. While those moments are important, they're not where leadership starts. True leadership begins in the quiet, often overlooked moments: how you listen, how you treat others when no one's watching, how consistently you show up for your team or community. These small behaviors lay the groundwork for trust, influence, and credibility. You don't earn respect through a title or authority. You earn it through how you behave every single day. Leadership is not a role someone gives you, it's a responsibility you step into through your actions. When you take the time to understand someone's perspective, when you respond instead of react, when you follow through on a promise, those actions seem small, but they are powerful signals. They communicate that you're reliable, empathetic, and committed. Over time, these behaviors become your reputation, and people follow those they trust. They listen to those who've shown consistency and character, not just those who speak loudly in a room. It's easy to think leadership happens in the big moments, during crises, at major meetings, or while making high-stakes decisions. But those moments are simply the results of the foundation you've built long before. You don't suddenly become a leader in a moment of stress. You fall back on the habits and character you've developed in quieter times. If you haven't practiced patience, active listener, accountability in the day-to-day, those qualities won't magically appear when things get difficult. One of the most underestimated leadership behaviors is presence. Just being fully engaged with someone, putting your phone away, looking them in the eye, asking thoughtful questions has an incredible impact. It tells people they matter. And when people feel seen and heard, they become more open, more trusting, more willing to collaborate. Leaders who develop the habit of presence don't need to constantly demand attention or authority. They earn it naturally through connection. Another powerful small behavior is leading by example. If you want a culture of respect, show respect. If you want a team that takes initiative, take initiative yourself. The people around you will notice more about what you do than what you say. Integrity isn't proclaimed, it's observed. Leadership behaviors are contagious. A leader who models curiosity, humility, and discipline sets a tone that others often begin to follow without being told. Leadership also grows in how you handle mistakes, not just your own, but others. When a team member messes up, your reaction can either build fear or build learning. A small moment of patience, of asking, what did we learn from this, instead of assigning blame, creates a culture of safety. That safety allows people to take risks, speak up, and grow. And it's in those environments that teams truly thrive. Even showing appreciation is a small behavior that pays enormous dividends. A simple thank you, a handwritten note, a moment of recognition during a meeting. These gestures cost little but carry great weight. They tell people their effort is seen. They foster loyalty, engagement, and a sense of belonging. Leaders who make gratitude a regular part of their behavior don't just retain people, they build communities. All of this starts before anyone calls you a leader. It starts in how you treat your classmates, your colleagues, your family. It starts in how you manage your time, how you respond to stress, how you talk about others. Leadership is built, not claimed. And the bricks it's built with are small daily behaviors, repeated consistently with intention and heart. Those who master these quiet habits are the ones others naturally look to when the stakes get high. Not because they asked for leadership, because they've already shown it.